Do I travel with books? Well, let's see.
Hey spooky friends, I'm Sarah, this is Thrills and Kills, and today we're going to do a tag video. So I am traveling for work and I figured what better time than now to do the traveling with books tag. This was originally created by Gina Stanier. I will tag her down below, so let's get going. Today's video is being filmed from a very comfortable hotel bed. Anyways, first question is, do you travel with books? Absolutely. I am known in my family for always having to pack books with me. I'm an overpacker, so I usually tend to bring more books and more clothes than I need for the trip every single time without fail. So this trip that I'm on, I did actually bring 2 physical books and Kindle and audiobooks because I knew I was going to have a lot of downtime and I don't want to be caught without something to read or something to watch or something to listen to on the plane. I hate flying. I'm very scared of flying, so I try and distract myself as much as possible. Funny little story about traveling with books. I volunteered in Ukraine earlier this year. That's quite a long flight from America to Ukraine, and I was there for 3 weeks. And even on that trip, I packed a book. And for some reason, I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to pack a scary book because I was going into a scary situation with a lot of unknowns, and I was really freaked out on that plane ride. I probably should have brought something lighthearted and fun and cozy, but instead I packed Dan Simmons' The Terror. My thought process, I think I've kind of blacked it out now, but I think my thought process was, let me just pack the biggest book I have because I was going to be there for 3 weeks, and we spent a lot of time in bomb shelters with like nothing to do, no access to cell service, so I was like, okay, well, I'll like get this done. No, I never even brought the book out. Like, it stayed at the bottom of my backpack and it just got beat up at the bottom of my backpack the whole time. So even when going to a war zone, I pack a book, I guess. Next question, although I'll put these two together. So do you travel with like paper physical books and do you travel with ebooks? Honestly, I don't like make a conscious decision between, oh, I'm gonna pack this versus that. It's more about what book do I want to read next, and so what version do I have that on. So for this trip, I did pack 2 physical books, one being a pick for my book club, and that was Dark Harvest. I also knew I'd be able to finish that really quickly on just one of the flights. And then I put on my Instagram a little poll and asked people which book I should bring for a longer book, and it was between Slewfoot, Ghost Eaters, and Old Country, and I decided to go with Old Country because Ghost Eaters was a copy from my library, and you know, they take the dust jacket off and then they like put the library information and tape it back on. They put it on backwards and like upside down, so if I were reading the book, it was gonna look totally weird out in public. It would look like I was reading a book upside down and backwards, and so I was like, no, I can't have this. I'm not bringing that. And Slewfoot, I'm gonna read that this coming weekend as part of the Halloween readathon, so I decided to bring Old Country. And I also did bring my e-reader because I've got a lot of books on there that I want to get to for October, and I'm a mood reader, so I figured, okay, if I start Old Country and I'm not loving it, or maybe I'll finish it in time, I don't know, that's a little bit ambitious. I always want to have other options. And even though this didn't ask about audiobooks, I always try to have audiobooks too, because sometimes, you know, it gets dark on the plane, I don't want to turn the light on. Maybe I just want to close my eyes because I'm feeling extra anxious from flying and I just want to put my little earbuds in and listen. So I also made sure I've got Amityville Horror downloaded on Audible. Our next question is, how many books do you pack when you travel? I honestly don't really think about it. It's just, like I said, what I'm most interested in reading, how long the trip is going to be, kind of what do I think I can get through. And then I will probably pick up a book while I'm out and about because I can't walk by one of those Hudson News stores without popping in and buying a new book. I didn't do it yesterday. Maybe I'll do it on the return flight. But hey, that's the good thing about Kindle and Audible is that I kind of have an unlimited supply of books, so I don't need to worry about how many I'm packing. Okay, the next question is, does where you go / how long you're going for impact the books that you pack? Not always, but sometimes if I'm taking sort of a special trip, I will pick a book to bring that kind of reflects the trip I'm taking. So for example, over the summer I went to Romania, Transylvania specifically. So of course I had to bring Dracula with me. And I didn't finish it, but I did read a little bit of it. It was really neat to be staying in Sigashwara, which is a medieval Transylvanian town where Count Vlad Dracul was born. That was really neat, and going by and seeing all the really old castles and just having that in my backpack with me, you can't beat it. And our last question is, do you buy books when you go traveling, and do you visit bookstores or libraries when you're traveling? And yes to all. So again, like, my husband knows he has to keep me on a short leash when we're going through the airport, because I'll pop into one of those Hudson News stores and buy books. I did take a look yesterday, and really all they had out was Stephen King, and I didn't want to buy any of those. For my job, I do a fair bit of traveling, and I am always going back to the same places, so I have scoped out some of the bookstores. So for example, there's a cute little bookstore down at the coast in my state where every time I go and have to visit that town for work, I pop into that bookstore and I always find something good. The first time I went, I picked up Mexican Gothic, and it's a cute store. It's an independently owned store, and the owner is great, and I love talking to her every time I go. I also have visited bookstores when I've been in Europe. Those are some of the best places to get lost in. And I've even visited some libraries. So when I visited Mexico City this last go around, my husband and I stopped in at a library, and I'll put a picture here, but it's almost like sci-fi. It looks like it's got these like floating shelves, and it's very neat. And of course my dream would be to go stop in at Oxford and see their famous library, the Bodleian. I don't know if it's open to the public or if you have to be a student to go, but that would just be so cool to knock that off the bucket list. This current trip, I've already scoped out the bookstores near my hotel. There's one place called Page Against the Machine, and it's sort of like a bookstore but for activism, and they have a lot of history books, so I'm hoping I can pop in there. The conference gets done at like 5, and I think the store closes at 6. And then there's another place called the Great Gatsby bookstore, and it looks like they've got a huge selection of used books. So again, we'll see. I don't know if I really have time. I might have to pick between the two. I don't think I can get to both of them. But yeah, I definitely got to check out the bookstores everywhere I go. But that's it. That's been the Traveling with Books tag. I thought it'd be perfect to do while I'm staying in a hotel and have my books with me for this trip. But yeah, I'll tag some people down below. I'd love to hear their answers. And if you don't mind, I'd love if you could like, subscribe, and I put out all kinds of videos about spooky content. I love scary books. I love scary movies. I love spooky t-shirts. I'll be doing a video coming up of my favorite spooky t-shirts, mugs, candles, etc. So that's it. I'm Sarah. This is Thrills and Kills, and stay spooky, friends.